Hey guys! In the gripping moments of the final months of World War II, where the Allies are pushing deep into Nazi Germany, the crew of a US Army tank named Fury, led by the hardened and experienced Staff Sergeant, Wardaddy, is joined by a young recruit. As they navigate the brutal realities of war, facing intense battles and moral dilemmas, they form a tight-knit bond while confronting the horrors of combat. But as they face their greatest challenge yet, will they emerge victorious, or will the price of war prove too high? Join us as we dive into the story of the American war film. Welcome to Popcorn and Summaries. The film begins in April 1945, with the Allies invading Nazi Germany and facing fierce resistance from Hitler's forces. In the chaos of battle, Sergeant Don, known as Wardaddy, ambushes a Nazi soldier inspecting the aftermath on horseback. After eliminating the soldier, Wardaddy returns to his tank, Fury. The crew, including the grumpy Grady, the Mexican soldier Grotto, and the religious Bible, are mourning the loss of their comrade Red. Despite their mood, Wardaddy urges them to fix Fury and continue their mission. When mortar shells rain down, they start the tank and escape the area. Back at camp, Wardaddy informs Sergeant Binkowski that Fury and its crew are the only survivors of the 3rd Platoon. Meanwhile, Bible, Gordo, and Grady discuss their fallen comrade Red, while Wardaddy is visibly affected by his death. Soon after, Private Norman Ellison approaches Wardaddy, introducing himself as his new assistant driver and bow gunner. Wardaddy is surprised by Norman's presence, as he's only been in the army for 8 weeks. He advises Norman to stick with the rest of the troop, follow orders, and not get too attached to anyone. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe for more content like this and support the channel. Norman joins the crew as they work on fixing Fury. Gordo searches for a cigarette in Norman's bag but finds a book instead. The others question Norman about his army job and intimidate him, then Gordo orders him to clean the inside of Fury. Inside the tank, Norman encounters the aftermath of battle, including a torn-off face, and vomits. Meanwhile, Wardaddy discusses their situation with other soldiers when an SS soldier prisoner is brought in. Wardaddy and the others attack the prisoner until they're stopped by their comrades. In anger, Wardaddy tells Norman to kill every SS soldier he sees. Norman admits he hasn't killed anyone yet. So, Wardaddy gives him a gun, and Grady teaches him how to use it. Wardaddy then discusses their next move with the other soldiers, as he will lead the platoon for their mission. After finalizing their plan, the crew mounts up and sets out. Along the way, they pass civilians evacuating, and Wardaddy warns his men to be vigilant for hidden enemies among them. Norman spots someone in the tree line but hesitates to shoot, leading to a successful enemy ambush. A tank explodes, and Norman witnesses a soldier burning and shooting himself. Wardaddy swiftly engages the enemy, revealing them to be young soldiers. He scolds Norman for hesitating, as their delay costs a life. Carrying the weight of his mistake, Norman joins Wardaddy as they continue the mission. Upon reaching their destination, they're greeted by a soldier who leads Wardaddy to Captain Wagoner. Despite frustration over insufficient backup, Wagoner trusts Wardaddy and discusses the mission to rescue pinned-down soldiers in enemy territory. They gear up and proceed with the rescue mission, reaching the stranded soldiers. However, they come under heavy enemy fire, with the opposition equipped with powerful machine guns and anti-tank weapons. A fierce shootout ensues. Norman, still not accustomed to combat, panics while reloading his gun as a soldier takes aim at them. Bible saves him just in time. Gordo scolds Norman and orders him to shoot the enemies on the ground, insisting they double-tap them. Reluctantly, Norman complies, feeling they're already dead. Overwhelmed, Norman breaks down and doesn't want to fight anymore. Wardaddy scolds him while Gordo consoles him, explaining it's part of war. Eventually, they defeat the Nazi soldiers. Wardaddy talks to Norman about his mistakes, realizing Norman isn't trained for combat, just thrown into it. Later, the group captures a Nazi soldier wearing an American jacket. Wardaddy orders Norman to execute him. When Norman hesitates, Wardaddy forces the revolver into his hand, making him pull the trigger. Traumatized, Norman is comforted by Bible as they return to the group. They assure Norman that despite Wardaddy's toughness, he's the reason their group is strong. Continuing to a nearby town, they encounter dead bodies of Germans who refuse to fight. In the town, they search for hiding German soldiers and question an old man. As he points to the hiding spot, he's sniped, sparking a shootout. In the end, Wardaddy and his platoon successfully capture the town, leading to the surrender of the Burgermeister. They rescue a group of children and women who were forced to fight in the war, and the SS officer responsible for hanging citizens is killed. After the victory, the soldiers celebrate. Wardaddy approaches Norman, praising him for his actions in battle. He then takes Norman to an office filled with deceased Nazi leaders who took their own lives rather than face capture by the Allies. Wardaddy shares a sobering truth with Norman, emphasizing that while ideals may be peaceful, history is often violent. Outside, Wardaddy notices a woman peeking from a window. He and Norman investigate her apartment, where they find Irma and her cousin Emma hiding. Wardaddy decides to stay for a while, paying Irma with cigarettes for a meal and hot water to shave. While the women prepare food, everyone is surprised to hear Norman playing the piano. Emma, initially frightened, approaches him and sings along as he plays. Wardaddy encourages Norman to be intimate with Emma, and they go into the bedroom. Irma is about to intervene, but Wardaddy stops her, insisting they should let them enjoy their youth. Inside, Emma and Norman share a tender moment. Just as they're about to eat, Bible, Gordo, and Grady interrupt. They tease Norman about a woman waiting for him in the tank, but when they see Emma, they realize what happened. They start bullying Norman and harassing Emma, especially Grady, but Wardaddy intervenes, putting an end to their behavior. During their meal, Gordo shares a story about Wardaddy's fondness for horses. Despite Wardaddy's warning not to spoil the meal, Gordo continues, recounting the grim task of euthanizing hundreds of injured horses after the D-Day War. Wardaddy becomes enraged, slamming the table and spitting on Grady. Gordo apologizes, but tensions remain high. As they are called for another mission, they're ordered to secure a crossroad, a dangerous task with uncertain outcomes. While preparing to leave, German bombardment hits the town, striking Irma and Emma's house. Norman rushes to help, followed by Grady. They discover Emma dead, further traumatizing Norman and fueling his anger toward the Nazis. Grady pulls Norman away, reminding him that war isn't peaceful. Wardaddy comforts Norman, explaining that death is inevitable in war. On their way to the crossroad, they're ambushed by an enemy Tiger tank, which decimates all the other Allied tanks. Fury, under Wardaddy's command, faces off with the Tiger tank. With Wardaddy leading the strategy, they manage to destroy the Tiger tank and eliminate the enemy soldiers. Once again, Wardaddy and his crew are the sole survivors. Wardaddy tries to report the events to his superiors, but the radio is damaged. Despite the stress and devastation, the crew of Fury laughs off their situation and continues their mission. As they reach the crossroad, Fury triggers a landmine, damaging the tank. With the tread cut off and needing some time for repairs, Wardaddy orders Grady and Norman to check a nearby building. Inside, Grady apologizes to Norman, recognizing him as a good-hearted guy. They find nothing but a dead German soldier and return to Fury. Wardaddy then instructs Norman to keep watch from a high vantage point. While on watch, Norman hears something and is horrified to see a battalion of German soldiers marching towards them. He rushes to inform Wardaddy and the others about the approaching SS battalion. Upon hearing the enemy's chants, Wardaddy recognizes them and decides to stay, despite Bible and the others wanting to escape. Despite Wardaddy's insistence on carrying out the mission, Grady points out that they're outnumbered and stand no chance against a battalion of enemies. Wardaddy allows them to leave if they wish, but he's determined to stay and hold the crossroad as the platoon leader. However, Norman decides to stay, and the others follow suit. They ask Wardaddy for his plan, and he orders them to disguise Fury as a destroyed tank and hide inside. With limited ammo, they wait for the right moment to strike. Inside Fury, as they prepare their weapons, Wardaddy brings out a bottle of alcohol, and they share a final drink. Bible recites a verse he always remembers, surprised when Wardaddy knows the book and chapter it's from. They also nickname Norman Machine for his abilities in battle and lovemaking. When the enemies approach, Norman alerts the others, and they gear up. As the fighting begins, they throw grenades and blow up a nearby building where enemy soldiers are hiding. With Wardaddy's command, they gain the upper hand, killing many enemies. However, they soon run low on ammo. So, Wardaddy decides to venture out to collect more ammo, with Gordo and Machine providing cover. They deploy smoke grenades and pop out of the hatch to protect Wardaddy as he retrieves the ammo. Once he's done, he orders them back inside. As Wardaddy prepares to re-enter, enemies manage to climb onto the tank. He fights them off but sustains a non-fatal gunshot wound. Bible tends to his injury while the German soldiers plan to overwhelm them with continuous attacks, armed with Panzerfausts. A tense silence hangs as both sides cautiously eye each other, aware of their dwindling ammo. The Germans unleash Panzerfausts, and the crew of Fury counterattacks. Tragically, a Panzerfaust blast kills Grady, leaving Bible grief-stricken. Wardaddy urges him to focus, reminding them they're still in the midst of battle. Soon, with their ammo exhausted, they resort to hand weapons and Fury's machine gun. The German soldiers recognize their advantage and intensify their assault. Inside Fury, the crew prepares to engage in another shootout. Wardaddy positions himself at the machine gun while the others arm themselves. Bible runs out of bullets and goes outside to retrieve a gun from a fallen enemy. Meanwhile, Gordo is shot while about to throw a grenade. He sacrifices himself, using his body to contain the explosion, shielding Wardaddy and Norman. With only 3 of them left against the German soldiers, the enemy whose gun Bible tries to take holds him down. Another enemy prepares to attack, but Norman arrives and saves Bible. They return to the tank as the enemies throw smoke grenades. As the chaos unfolds, an enemy sniper, camouflaged, approaches Fury. Wardaddy, fighting off attackers, calls for a grenade from Bible. But when Bible pops out of the hatch, he's shot in the head by the sniper. The sniper then targets Wardaddy, hitting him. Despite being repeatedly shot, Wardaddy manages to retreat into the tank. Inside, Wardaddy and Machine have a heartfelt conversation. Norman admits his fear, and Wardaddy acknowledges feeling the same. Norman suggests surrendering, but Wardaddy knows they'll be tortured to death. Outside, enemy soldiers swarm the tank and drop a hand grenade inside. With a final glance at Wardaddy, Norman escapes through the bottom hatch. Under the tank, Norman tries to conceal himself with mud, but a young German soldier discovers him with a torch. Silent pleading saves Norman's life, and the next morning, he's stirred awake by the sound of a passing horse. Returning to the tank, Norman covers Wardaddy's body. Hearing movement outside, he arms himself with Wardaddy's revolver, ready to defend. To his relief, the hatch opens to reveal an American soldier. Recognized as a hero, Norman is brought into an ambulance. The movie concludes with a scene of Fury, heavily damaged, surrounded by the bodies of the German battalion, with Norman as the sole survivor. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you like the story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more war film recaps.